we just know throughout the week? Like, why tease it? If you guys are just joining, news comes out today. Tua Tagovailoa doubtful for Sunday's game against the Cleveland Browns. Hip injury. He had said earlier in the week that it was feeling good, but apparently something got aggravated. And apparently he is still pushing to play. Tua wants to play, but they've already downgraded him on the injury report. Officially, Skylar Thompson's been lifted to the active roster, none of which suggests it's very likely that Tua is going to play in this game. So, us, right? Feel terrible for Tua. Another late season injury that he's not able to get out there on the field with his season potentially in the balance. I guess the only thing that would give you some solace is if the Dolphins, I guess, are completely eliminated. But it's going to be tough if they do have a chance and they're not able to do anything because they've been dead in the water without him this season. I mean, they can't operate without him. All the things everybody wants to say about the criticisms, and sure, whatever you want to say, I get. But you can't act like the Dolphins don't have a better chance without him. And even the most staunch Tua hater can't feel great about this situation. If you're a Dolphins fan but a Tua hater, which is a weird thing to be, but if you are, you can't even feel great about this situation that the Dolphins are about to go. And the only thing that could give you some solace is a Snoop Huntley revenge game, giving you like a little bit of a window if the Dolphins are still in it. They need both, or they need one of the Broncos or the Chargers to lose today. They can't have either one of those teams get to 10 wins. Chargers well on their way. They're up 17-0 right before the half. So they're taking care of the Patriots. The Bengals host the Broncos in a couple of hours. And then, of course, you have tomorrow the Colts, who the Dolphins also need to lose one of their final games. They're starting Joe Flacco tomorrow. A lot of injuries popping up here on the late stream, but man, that's cruel. It's cruel. And apparently, tomorrow's it's interesting because tomorrow's not going to exactly be a cold day in Cleveland, but it is supposed to be a nasty day in Cleveland. It's supposed to be, windy, rainy, but low 50s, not cold. So miserable day. Shout out to my boy Leroy Horde, who's flying to Cleveland to go be in that terrible city and that terrible weather. But, bro, you would just hope that, at least you would have had your full arsenal as much as possible going into this. And this is where the Dolphins are. It sucks. Tracy Wolfson of CBS said, Tua told me last week it would be a challenge to play through the hip injury last week. He got through it, obviously, but aggravated it. He told me it's the same hip that he had surgery on in college, but fortunately, a different spot. Gutted for Tua. Feel for him. Know what's going to come with this also, because people are going to bring up the durability issues. Look, this has been something we've already talked about. It also says, this is from Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Tua wants to play, is still trying to, but it's a significant injury in terms of impact to his mobility and strength. So, yeah, it doesn't sound great. And, yeah, this does add on to the idea of, like, hey, man, another season at the end, not at full strength, whether it be a concussion, whether it be a finger, whether it be now a hip. that stuff is tough to ignore. I can't. It is what it is. The guy is had issues, and these are things that sometimes you can't help. I mean, Anthony Richardson's a moose. He just got ruled out for tomorrow, but has also had his own durability issues. Some of these things you can't help. But it is one of those things. If the Dolphins do have a chance and they do look like dog bleep tomorrow on offense and they're not able to, and if that is a factor, yeah, it's tough it's tough to feel like you're not going to have this unfulfilling moment of just like, man, another season. First it was the concussions a couple of years ago. This year had the concussions now and the hip, the same hip that he hurt in college, but it's a different spot. Okay, great. But it's still a significant injury that he's had in an area of his body that he's already had before. So it does feel like a little bit of a repeat. And, you see where the Dolphins are at and how long it's taken them to even get to this point to have a guy like Huntley be definitely a guy that the coach seems to believe in, and says that the locker room seems to believe in. It was interesting hearing how much Mike McDaniel endorsed Snoop Huntley this week, almost as if he knew this was a possibility, because Tua really poker faced it. He did not seem to share his cards on how bad this thing is. I think that's why it comes as such a shock here on Saturday that now we're in this position where he might not be able to go. Just brutal, man. Brutal. You just, because this is the thing with this season that's going to be tough to evaluate. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, obviously the Dolphins failed in not having themselves in a position to be able to withstand any weeks without Tua. Nobody feels great without their starting quarterback being out there, but to be as inept as the Dolphins were for so many weeks, where it's Tim Boyle and it's Skylar Thompson and all this stuff that they had to deal with, then on top of the fact that Tua seems like he's going to be unable to go, to not have yourself prepared when this guy does have frequent injuries, head ones, whether they be minor hits, snapback hits, major hits, and now an injury that has, and that was, we know in that Houston game, man, he took a beating. He got hit hard in that game, took a bad sack. He was flying all over the place for first downs. It was a physical game that the Dolphins, that's another thing that's annoying, right? Like, you think about that offensive line they put in front of him, the performance that Eichenberg had, the Carmen fella that they threw out there, no Teron Armstead. And so, once again, we come back to, if this Dolphin season comes up short of the playoffs, two things that we know to be true, all right? The offensive line was if healthy, could be talented, but very flimsy because it's all really built on, could Teron Armstead get through a season? And the health of your quarterback, which also is a tough thing to know if he can get through a season. And for the Dolphins to just kind of be like, we'll see what happens, and not prepare themselves, like living on the beach without insurance in the middle of hurricane season. Just like, we'll see what happens. I think we'll be all right. No hurricane shutters for us. We'll be okay. Well, this house is from the 70s. We'll see. It's lasted this long. All right, fair enough. The Dolphins to be in this position this year where either Tua had the concussions or got the snot kicked out of him because he has dudes never playing on the offensive line who have never played their positions before, or just straight bums, and bums who are also not healthy. It just sucks. And then it also just kind of feels like the Dolphins are getting what they deserve in some regards. Like, if they're not able to, like, look, maybe Snoop, again, revenge game is fully on the table. You can never, ever, ever put out a revenge game possibility with Snoop Huntley. But Yeah, it's tough not to feel like the Dolphins are getting a little bit of what they set themselves up for. That they're gonna suffer the full consequences of it. And you got to feel like the whole reason they're just not ruling him out is, and you got to give Tua credit for this, is he is trying to gut through this. And if the Dolphins do have a possibility, specifically if the Broncos lose, because it feels like the Chargers are very much on their way to a win, that he's going to push even more to get through. Oh, it's 17-7. Maybe the Patriots say, go get him. Is Jacoby still in there? Because I think he was in there. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Nope, Drake May's back in. All right, cool. That's not possible. Maybe. But if not, yeah, if it is set up for this, if the Dolphins do have a chance at the playoffs and he is able to gut through that, then yeah, credit to him. But you got to feel like that's why this is at. Like, hey, if this doesn't happen, obviously, if they don't have a chance at the playoffs, why risk it? Why have him out there if he's for what? What he did to get Tyreek Hill 1,000 yards? Like, I don't even understand what the point would be. But you gotta think Tua knows that too, dude. Like, come on. Like, even he said at one point this year, he said that putting himself in harm's way put the Dolphins here, and it's got to be killing him to know, like, if the Dolphins do have a chance in the playoffs and he can't go, just what that's going to feel like as a competitor, what that's going to feel like for him. Just brutal. Can't believe this, man. And yet it's the most believable thing too.